Oliver passed over a penknife and watched his mother carefully slit the envelope open. "Ah, you've made a mistake there, darling," she said with something like triumph. "The letter should be tucked in with the folded side up. How silly of you not to have noticed. As it happens, I was not present when they opened it." "When who opened it?" "Never mind." "Well, thank you so much for delivering it, Oliver dear. What happens now? Am I to be arrested, interned without trial, shot out of hand, escorted to one of your secret lunatic asylums and pumped full of thorazine, perhaps?" "We don't do that kind of thing, Mother." "Of course you don't, darling. It's just awful gossip and rumour. You don't shoot to kill, you don't torture, you don't lie, spy, bug and blackmail either, do you?" Oliver turned his head at the sound of a sudden creak on the stair. He strode quickly across the room and opened the door. "Ah, Maria, how can we help?" "Good morning, Mr. Oliver. I'm sorry disturbing you. I was wondering if you or Mrs. Blagrow like maybe some cup of coffee? Or some biscuits? I have baked many biscuits." Thank you, Maria, no. If we need anything, we will come down," said Oliver, closing the door. "But such a sweet thought," his mother called over her shoulder. "Thank you, Maria, dear." Oliver closed the door, crossed over to the window, and looked out over Heron Square. Through the balusters of the first-floor balcony, he could see a sparklingly clean turquoise Bentley manoeuvring into a parking space. In the central garden, a game of tennis was in progress on one of 3 courts set aside for the use of residents. From most of the stucco facades that overlooked the square, national flags drooped from cream-painted poles. The houses here were so large and opulent that few were still in use as private residences. The majority served as embassies or grand offices. "I just want to know one thing," Oliver said. "Why? That's the question, isn't it? Why? You have more than most people ever dream of. A rich husband who adores you, health, friends, luxury, status. Why?" For Philippa Blackrow, who had lived with her passion since almost before she could remember, the answer to that question was so clear in her mind that it seemed almost impossible to express. She lit a cigarette and looked up at her son, whose face was dark against the window. "After the British shot your grandfather," she said at length, "Mummy and I went to live in Canada to avoid the fuss. She died there when I was 14. The doctors never explained what it was, but I knew that it was what they used to call a broken heart. We seem to have lost that capacity of late, don't we? Doctors have told us not to be so silly. Animals still die that way, but what do animals know? To this day I am sure that she would never have been taken ill if Daddy had still been alive. The British killed both my parents. Well, Mummy's brother, my Uncle Bobby, adopted me, and so I came back to England and became his daughter. He never let me talk about Daddy. If I so much as mentioned his name, I would be sent to my bedroom. Uncle Bobby was to be called Daddy, and Aunt Elizabeth was to be Mummy. It was as if my real parents never existed. Daddy was the wicked brother-in-law that Uncle Bobby's poor sister had been tricked into marrying, and his name was to be struck from family history. I suppose they thought I would forget him, but I never did. The less he was mentioned, the more proud of him I grew, and the more determined to have my revenge on the unjust, cruel, and gutless regime that destroyed him. You think I have more than most people dream of? What other people dream of doesn't matter. I always had less than I ever dreamt of. All I ever dreamt of was a family, a father and a mother. Most people don't even need to dream of such luxuries. They take them for granted. That is what I used to dwell on, alone in my bedroom. I dwelt, as all children do, on the injustice. Injustice is the most terrible thing in the world, Oliver. Everything that is evil springs from it, and only a cheap soul can abide it without anger.